Bueno, doncs, si acas començarem. Bona tarda a tothom. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Ana Major. I come from the Barcelona City Council. I'm the director of the Digital Innovation. And today we are talking, of course, about housing, of course. We know this is a big challenge, but not only in Barcelona, but worldwide. So from Barcelona, we wanted not only to talk about it, to debate and to reflect, but also to act and to tackle problems in a different way. And then we are very happy that with Housing Department and Innovation Department, we decide to launch a challenge looking solutions for affordable housing. I'm going to explain why we did it. I'm the responsible with my team, some of them here, Tomas and Anna, of the iLab. iLab is an innovation lab that wants to tackle urban challenges in order to make sure that we... Okay, awesome. Maybe...
You do it.
Yeah, sorry. First of all, sorry. I didn't know it was here. I thought it was at the end. We are Ana Major and Eduard Cabré. So as I said, I'm from the Innovation Department. Eduard is the International Relations from the Housing Department. So we've been working together in this project. So let me explain very brief what is the iLab and why we are doing that. iLab, as I say, is an innovation lab to talk about the new challenges of the cities and try to solve them in a different way, collaboratively with other agents of the city, looking for solutions that have a social impact, a sustainable impact, and then define the new cities where we live in. Why we create this? In fact, we've been working like that for quite a long time, but we wanted to tackle three things. First of all, we want a city council, every city council wants to do the same, to create better cities to live in. So we want to offer better services and products for our citizens, but we wanted at the same time to change a little bit the internal culture in governments, to make it more innovative, to look for different ways of doing things. We are very happy and lucky, I would say, in Barcelona, because we've been doing this for a while, but we want to make it more general and that everyone really think different and put innovation in their daily work. And we wanted to link, I want to explain it later, all this innovation to public procurement, because as you know, public procurement at the end, it's our main tool to do things as a government. We have taxes and then we offer services during acting with public procurement. And in Europe, it's more or less that 80% of the GPD, so the impact is really huge. And that's why we wanted to link innovation with public procurement in order to maximize the impact. And the other head, I would say, that we are looking for, the other object is, when we innovate, we want to help companies to grow, we want to create business growth, we want to create jobs, so we want to create richness in the city. So while tackling the city challenges and helping the administration to be more innovative, we are working with companies in order to help them sell their own products to the governments. And we do it with other cities, because challenges are more or less the same everywhere. When we talk with other cities, we discover that are quite similar. We talk about transportation, about the environment, about housing, and that's why it's a way of doing this with a bigger approach and a better solution, that it's not the Barcelona solution, but a worldwide solution. As I said, but defining in very brief, so we want to address city challenges and citizens' need in a collaborative way, because we do it with a methodology that we collaborate with the ecosystem, big companies, small companies, universities, etc. For us, it's important, as I'm coming from the Digital Innovation Department, the use of technology. Technology, it's not always, well, it's not neutral and it's not always the best, so we really take care about the type of technology, the use of the data that this technology proposes, etc. We look for social impact, and what is very important is the scalability of the solutions, and we work with economic promotion, so helping companies. Very fast, and I finish with that. This is our methodology. We define a challenge together with New York in this case, and Eduard will explain. We did a call for solutions in our website, we communicate internationally, and a lot of people that are here present their solutions. And now we are in the phase of the finalists. We will announce the winners in New York in May, in the Smart City Expo New York. And we will do a pilot in order to test if these solutions really solve what we are looking for. And what we want really is that this pilot can scale and solve the problem in the cities. We do this in different areas, and as I said, with the ecosystem. So I think the best thing is pass the word to Eduard. He will explain how we define these New York and Barcelona city challenges and housing for affordable housing. And that's it. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna. So I'm going to be very brief because really why we're all here today is to hear from the 3 finalists to the challenge. As Anna mentioned, this is a challenge that we're launching between the city of Barcelona and New York. And we wanted to launch this together because we are facing similar challenges. I don't think, this was Anna's. I don't think I need to go back again to the problems that Barcelona is facing, but really what the Right to Housing plan is trying to address is the fact that Barcelona has an extremely limited amount of public housing and affordable housing, and a growing need in terms of affordability. And the graph you can see here is the increase in rental prices in the city, which is now far beyond the peak during the housing bubble. And New York is facing exactly the same challenge. So in this framework, we decided to look for opportunities and solutions together with private stakeholders, mainly nonprofit, non-speculative, social private stakeholders. And this challenge is what this is about, is asking the private sector to propose us solutions in both the private and the public housing sectors to the affordability crisis. So the way the challenge was defined was that we wanted to, in a way, put the land issue aside, because we all know the main problem with housing affordability is land, but we also wanted to look at opportunities for cost reduction in the construction and management of housing. And so this is more or less the abstract of what we were asking for, so constructive and management solutions that would make housing more affordable. And as you will see, this is what the 54 proposals that we got addressed. So the ideas that we had in mind when we launched this challenge were very broad, and these are some of the ideas. We were looking at off-site prefabrication, modular housing, but also information and data management tools, the use of drones, 3D printing, any technologically based solution, but not only. And we actually, in the the terms of references of the challenge, decided to open it up to all different types of solutions coming from academia, from social actors, cooperatives, but also professionals, architectural firms, and so on and so forth, that could have an impact in the cost of construction and management in housing. And the criteria that we use to evaluate all of these units is also very varied, but we were especially interested in very innovative solutions that had a potential to be scalable, to have a very strong impact in the housing market, that we're taking into account the multi-stakeholder and multi-level problems in connection to housing, that were inclusive, that tried to engage communities. The final beneficiaries of these policies should also be involved in the process, and obviously that we're sustainable and we're taking into account all of the other challenges that we're facing as a society. And the way this worked in terms of reviewing the proposals is that we had an evaluation committee formed by 15 different people coming from very different types of professions and backgrounds. As I mentioned again, academia, professionals, public and private sector, both from New York and Barcelona, but also other places. And they helped us grade all of the proposals. And finally, a jury of honor was responsible to review those gradings, decide the 3 finalists, and eventually decide the winner that will have a chance to present their proposal in New York and have a $20,000 prize to be used to develop the pilot. So sorry, as I mentioned before, we got 54 proposals from 16 different countries. And at this point, we've reduced that amount to the 3 finalists that you're going to be hearing from today. So without further ado, I'm going to ask the first team to come up and present their proposal. Each of them is going to have 10 to 12 minutes to present. And at the end of the session, the Deputy for Housing is going to give them a token of gratitude, and we're going to take a picture, a group picture. So we're going to begin with Elastic Living. If you can please join us on stage. So if you want to use these mics, you're free to. Otherwise, you can use this mic that I'm going to leave here.
As you prefer.
And
I'm going to write the slides.
great.
Okay, thank you.
It's working?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the invitation. And also, thank you for coming. I'll try to speak in a few minutes to describe a work that I began many years ago. It's called Elastic Living. It's a project I began 10 years ago after building a theater, a library, and a storage. I decided to come back to the dwelling. It's one of the most interesting and difficult program in architecture. The first step in working to this program was to make a research in the German countries, Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, to know about what the people need. The results of this research was that in Austria, as in Germany and Switzerland, the most gesuchte,
the most sought?
yeah, dwellings were dwellings for one people or two people. In Austria, a flat for 2 or 1 people had a dimension from 52 square meters. In Switzerland was the most, it was very high, it was about 60, and Germany was between these countries. So I decided to begin to go to the next step, where I begin to think about what's the space, what's the brick of the space. And for me, was the brick of the space the human being. In the moment you are alone, you are creating a space. When it's coming, when you have somebody for you, the space will be bigger. When a group of people is meeting each other, the space it's more complicated, and it's also bigger and has another character. It can be a space between a girl and an old man with his characteristics, a space between a guy and a tree. And this space, it's it's something that needs a function. It begins to have a function. In the moment you are organizing, because that's our work, to organize the space as an architect, in the moment it's coming a function in this space, it's another component that's parameter that is coupled to the function and to the space, and that's the time. Yeah. The component of time came in the solution of the flat, of the dwelling. Here is one example that we developed extra for Barcelona. It has the minimal size, 36 square meters, and the component of time is reflected by the situation, because I have in an apartment in the 21st century, I have 4 functions. I have a kitchen, I have a bedroom, I have a living room, and so on. And when I'm in the living room, I cannot take a shower. When I'm sleeping, I cannot cook. That's the way I thought. In the moment I'm in the living room, I'm paying the rent or the costs of a space. I don't need it in that moment. And so the 20 square meters of the living room could be bigger with the area that the bedroom takes away. When I'm comprimating the bedroom, the dining room will be bigger. And the same thing, it's when the kitchen is open, or like here in 36 square meter, because it's a very big surface. We already have projects with 30 square meters. I could put also a small office so that elastic living, it's also a home office in the model for Barcelona. Here we can see some examples how it's going on the day. Here is a party, a kitchen party. Here it's somebody by sleeping or by working. You have everywhere independent spaces. You can close them without working something, without making order in the space. On the right, it's a moment where the kitchen is open and it's a big table with 12 persons which can have fun by a birthday from grandma. Yeah, Rafael will explain you why this apartment, it's not an interior design project, has very big consequence also in urban space.
Thank you, Angelo. Bona tarda, soc Rafael Gómez Moriana i he tingut el plaer de treballar amb Angelo i amb Ignaz. I'm going to switch to English now, actually my native tongue. The question was also, of course, how an apartment like this can be integrated in the city. So what type of building should accommodate such an elastic dwelling? And of course, how to do it affordably. Land and infrastructure are the greatest costs when it comes to housing. So of course, it has to be a very dense building in order to be affordable. This floor plan of elastic living apartments that you see here has the unit that Angelo just explained, and it has 12 of them here. If we were to do an equivalent apartment in a conventional method, let's say with fixed rooms, we would need at least 55 square meters of space. So what you can see here basically is that with elastic living, you can increase the density by about 50%, okay, for a given floor plate. In this case, it's a 600 square meter floor plate with units facing the street as well as the block interior, as is very typical here, and with 2 stair cores, because in USA you need 2, and here also after a certain size, of course. There's also this is a typology that's placed between party walls, so it's ideal for urban infill. I will go quickly. Standardization is another way to save cost, of course. And here we have, in fact, the same floor plate in Brooklyn as well as in Poblenou. And of course, these units are also mass customizable, so it can be adapted. The number of units can be adapted to the dimensions of a plot, as can the width of each unit. There's a certain elbow room there. Okay, and then finally, I just want to explain how this is also a way to save money is construction time, and so this is a kind of ideal unit for use in prefabrication. And it can also be built sustainably using engineered wood products and energy efficiently. And I will now give the final word to Ignace.
1 minute left. Thank you very much. I will talk about the... Is it working? No. Is the video working or not? Oh. The video is not working. Yeah. 3 advantages. Construction time down by 50% because we do prefabrication. The only thing we need is a foundation, and building is basically assembling the models on top of each other. Second point, spatial efficiency. As you have seen, in 36 square meters, we make a perceived living room of 60 square meters, which is more than 50% more. And the third one is affordability. Through industrialization of the process and also mass customization, we can exploit the experience curve, scale of economies, and within a short time we will reduce the cost at least by 60%. 50%, I want to say. Next one was a video. This is a guy who's living in one of the first apartments, and I just must tell you, when I saw that the first time, I said, wow, we have to do that. He shows around, you can see him with his modules. He can move the bedroom, the kitchen, the living room. With the touch of a finger, more or less, he can move those modules. Now, the newer one have automatic movement. We are not solving all the problems which have been discussed today here, but we can start doing. We are ready. Give us a plot of land and we can start building. Thank you very much in the name of the group, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ignaz. Can I have the pointer? Thank you. And now we're going to have Roser from Col·lectiu.6 join us. And 2 colleagues, I see. The floor is yours. Si voleu fer servir això des d'allà o... Perfecte. Em diuen que heu de posar el micròfon ben a prop si utilitzeu aquell. Si no, aquest.
Vale, ben a prop. Perfecte. Hola, bona tarda. Moltes gràcies per escollir la nostra proposta. Sí, perfecte. Nosaltres hem preparat la presentació en anglès, tot i que som d'aquí, i canviaré en anglès. I'm Roser Casanovas, architect and urban planner from Col·lectiu.6, a non-profit cooperative of architects, sociologists and urban planners that works to rethink spaces from an international gender perspective. Feminist urban planning proposes a change of priorities in the current society, placing people's everyday lives at the center of decisions to transform the inequalities that the neoliberal capitalism and patriarchal city has reproduced. Putting the everyday life of people at the center means designing cities that privilege and respond to care, domestic and reproductive and paid work, which is still mostly carried out by women, and reclaiming that this work should be a social and public responsibility and non-exclusively a woman's job. We acknowledge that innovative technology can help share reproductive and care tasks, but we have to avoid to repeat the error committed in the third industrial revolution when technology did not contribute to the redistribution of care work, and consequently, women today continue carrying this burden. Women continue developing 70% of domestic work in other works. Worldwide, women invest twice as much time than men. In addition, care work is not covered by the public system. In the project we present, we want to use technology not as a cosmetic measure, but as a revolutionary tool to socialize care. Because no matter how advanced humanity is supposed to be, we all need care. We are interdependent and eco-dependent. To achieve the redistribution of care and domestic chores, it is essential to include women's experiences to generate smart elements for the everyday life. Our strategy to fight the current housing speculation and guarantee people's access to affordable and adequate housing is to diversify the tenure models. Access to affordable housing not only depends on the housing project itself, but also on the conditions of the surrounding urban environment and how this guarantees the development of people's everyday life. Using a feminist perspective, we propose to work in the construction of a housing network that involves people living in different housing models who will share common services and facilities that aim to collectivize domestic care and community work. Sharing common spaces to facilitate residents' everyday lives has the potential to reduce living costs and maintain accessibility to affordable housing, protecting both people's right to housing and right to the city. This project moves to think from an individual approach to housing, often focused on solving the problem of a residential unit, to generate a network of several residential units with the community services. Often, the design of affordable housing projects, such as social housing, buildings, or cooperative housing projects, designed from a feminist perspective, propose common care, domestic, and space to foster the redistribution of unpaid domestic and care costs among the residents. Our project proposed to expand sharing care and community support beyond the housing unit and building, to be carried out outside, in and by the community. This project makes visible previous collective contributions from feminist theorists and practitioners who have proposed to share common services outside the home, to make visible that the reproductive and care tasks have to be a social and a public responsibility, making them more visible in our urban environments. The solution that we here present wants to go beyond one single housing project and build this network at the neighborhood scale, connecting different housing projects. We want to go beyond these boundaries and examine the diversity of possibilities and options to create affordable housing and sharing everyday life spaces. We propose that different affordable housing projects can get together under a second-grade cooperative, a cooperative of cooperatives, and share everyday life services, care and living spaces, contributing to the creation of a network of supportive neighborhood living. The everyday housing network includes different types of collective housing in terms of tenure, such as public, private, or cooperative housing, in terms of topologies, such as senior assisted living housing and youth housing, also in terms of forms of participation. Each network will decide what are the everyday life elements that they want to share and the degree of community participation. Some examples of shared elements and spaces that are present in other collective projects are childcare, community center, shared kitchen, food co-op, shared laundry, co-working, guest rooms, etc. These sharing spaces can be distributed among the different collective housing buildings or other spaces of the surrounding community. For example, using ground floor units, back and lots of building in rehabilitation, etc. Many shared activities can be developed in these spaces, which will be located in proximity to the housing projects that are part of the cooperative in order to guarantee the development of the cooperative network in the neighborhood. We propose to implement this solution in the neighborhood of Poblenou in the district of Sant Martí, Barcelona. However, the goal will be that in the future this could be replicated. An essential element for the success of this project is that the housing network has to be created by and for local residents who want to be involved in sharing community care. To reach this goal, one of the first activities will be the constitution of a working group with representation of members of the different housing projects involved, as well as a community and neighborhood organizations interested in being part of this network. This working group will have gender parity and its composition and reflect the diversity of residents of the different housing projects involved. In the particular case of Poblenou, the Everyday Life Housing Network will be composed by different types of housing, and we have used Helen Harvey's theory to have an inclusive and transformative perspective when thinking the architecture of care. Therefore, the shared spaces of this housing network can be classified as hard infrastructure, which are the physical and more visible spaces, and soft infrastructure, which are the social strategies to share everyday life. Among the hard infrastructure, we find youth house, children's spaces, shared laundry, LBC hub, a wood atelier, guest rooms, storage, a food co-op, a community kitchen, or a community garden. These spaces are distributed through the network. Among the soft infrastructure, we find a multi-local delivery service, a kids' clothing chain, a walking school bus, a home laundry service, the Brothers Network, a safe home, a foster grandparents, and a bank of time. It is the soft infrastructure that technology can be used to respond to people's needs, to manage timetables and the needs of the people who are part of the network. The housing network seeks to place people's lives at the center of urban decisions, combining hard and soft infrastructure and using technology to make sure that care and reproductive responsibilities in this fourth industrial revolution are visible, socially valued, and shared among the community, removing the burden that women still carry today. In conclusion, this project has 5 contributions. First, using everyday life to analyze the role of space in the built environment means giving equal value to all the spheres of life, the productive, reproductive, the community, and personal. Second, this project recognizes the social value of the unpaid work and promotes a more equitable gender divisions between spheres. Third, this project seeks to break the public-private divide between the private spheres of home and the public space, taking care and domestic work to the public space to make it a social responsibility. Fourth, understanding that this daily organization has an urban design, health, and well-being implications that shape people's aspirations and expectations. And finally, this project contributes to the democratization of housing policies, and women's active participation will be central to search for affordable housing solutions and for a more equal society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And finally, we're going to have the last team, who's actually 2 different teams, 2 different proposals that, because of the commonalities among themselves and the complementarity, we decided to award together. And they've accepted to present today both of them at the same time. So this is for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. We're going to read our speech. We are glad to be here. Thank you very much for your welcome at this forum. This is a joint presentation of two teams, CAH, Construction System for Affordable Housing, coming from Medellin,
and ATRI, which is Tactical Accommodations for Inclusive Repopulations. And we are
Catherine Preciado,
Ollana García,
Paula Cobeaga, Alejandro Jiménez, David Juárez,
Jaime Sarmiento. Both teams presented complementary proposals, and both of them share quite similar ideas. One of the most significant problems for affordable housing, both in Barcelona and New York, is that building ground is very scarce. These cities are almost full. Pressure and demand is growing on one side. On the other hand, mobility is changing fast as well. Its infrastructures, when not overtaken by smoke and noise, might be very available from a more civic approach.
aerial constructions over infrastructure spaces like highways and added buildings to existing blocks, like in this image, becomes possible.
The long time and high cost in construction processes are also a present problem.
To respond to this problem, CAH and ATRI proposed to use the existing, building on top of what's already built, employing light construction systems. We aim to increase industrialized construction, reducing the cost and the construction times in early stages, but also incorporating the crafts and skills that have been affected and put aside by the recent economical crisis.
The lack of consideration for people's lives and the poor quality of conventional designs are also issues at affordable housing.
CAH and ATRI both propose participatory design with communities, meaning co-design. Shared spaces between families and co-living units, as co-housing, and also stimulate assisted self-construction to reduce cost and cause greater empathy for users with their own house and communal spaces. The urban growth issues of the rationalist town planning have plenty of open space. Sometimes these spaces are unused, dangerous, expensive to maintain, and repeated. An approach that improves dwellers' identity, builds more active sidewalks and relational corners is shown here. And there might be opportunities as well in the compact city, building over the terraces, filling the empty spaces, building inside the buildings, or adding new buildings beside the dividing or blank party walls.
Here we have some examples. The upper is in Barcelona. Those buildings over infrastructures as railways, tracks, highways, and harbors. That kind of building over the right, this building works like a bridge that connects separated parts of the city. In this case, joining the Barceloneta with the Parc de la Ciudadela.
Or filling the blocks that have the possibility to grow, like this one over the Metro Fontana station in Gracia. In New York City, we have like punctual interventions to fill city gaps, like this one at Taft Houses and Reverend Martin Luther King Towers in East Harlem.
Or this kind of matte building, just over the image. It is near Brooklyn Bridge. It's like a matte building, and it's embracing Manhattan.
We are sure that for affordable housing, it's important to think about people's ways of life, and that's why we involve users in the design and in the construction also.
They can participate in the design process of their own homes. It could be using contemporary technologies like apps, sometimes in doing it yourself, and sometimes receiving advice from professionals.
We also believe that neighbor communities can live better if they share spaces. Users also participate in their shaping and construction bonds. They also increase solidarity and community life.
Common spaces can be kitchens, dining rooms, playgrounds, laundries, patios, paths, or yards, chairs with chairs, vegetables, gardens. The houses must be adaptable to people's life. Families may grow, and so homes should be extended and ground with it.
Also, homes can be tangible in time, allowing for a long-time interaction between the house inhabitants and local builders.
The manufacture and assembly process in construction must be optimized to reduce cost and time by producing the components. The black construction is starting in the factory. This is the first image, here at the left. Then we assume that there could be two possible ways of assembly. At the upper image, we can see how the frame is prepared and the modules, like containers, are placed. This is the case of the new buildings over infrastructures. At the lower picture, we can see how the gap in the existing tissue is prepared and then is filled with the new building. This is the gray construction phase. Finally,
the end of the process is the white construction. It can be made by the users by themselves in an assisted self-building process.
the frame could be assembled in situ, like a tridimensional net made of metallic bars. This net is filled with modules like containers, transported from the factory to the site by trucks and lifted by cranes.
The modules can be produced in factories with recyclable materials, especially wood or steel. ATRI stands for Tactical Accommodations of Inclusive Repopulation. It's made by a group of architects, economists, lawyers, and builders that have joined to try to give an answer to the blatant lack of public housing and the concentration of assets in big hands that the recent economical crisis is shamefully revealed in global cities.
CAH is the union of two teams as well. A couple of young architects that won a contest in Medellin, the Medellin Experimental Social Housing, continuing in an incubating company, and a pair of master's degrees research at the University in Colombia, and an experienced architect who made a Spanish patent, which is being developed in Colombia in his professional and academic practice at the university. Like the prototype, of the UN Solar for a contest, the Solar Decathlon contest.
CAH and A3 have met before at the Piso Piloto exhibition in Medellin and Barcelona, the third Congress of Collective and Sustainable Housing in Guadalajara, Mexico, and now Destiny has joined us again in Barcelona and New York City Affordable Housing Challenge. That's good luck. For some of us, it has been 20 years or more of designing and building living spaces together with the users. Right now, we have just co-designed the first pilot of the PRO program of the Barcelona City Council, having the privilege of proposing some technical solutions to this, which is an unprecedented system on this country. And on the other side, we have a strategical connection with Gifinet, which is a network, a free network that connects over 4,000 homes in a program that they're already running to monitor building indicators and energy management systems, which is kind of a new interest path for us also. And now we have the video. Can we play the video?
Hello, technicians upstairs. Thank you. There.
All right, thank you very much. At this point, I also want to apologize to the Elastic Living team because I know they had a video, but for some reason we weren't aware of that. So the presentation was turned into a PDF and that blocked it. But we'll make sure to take that into account for the last evaluation of the winner of the contest. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I want to now ask all of the teams to come to the stage and also the Deputy for Housing, Jose Maria Montaner, for a group picture. Jose Maria els pot donar... Round of applause to our teams. That was the Elastic Living team. Now, Poon 6 cooperative team. And finally, the CAH A3 joint proposal. Thank you all very much. Sí, si voleu. Let us join. Ens posem aquí. Thank you very much for sticking to the time. It's been a very well-prepared presentation. And I'm now going to ask all of the teams to join the Deputy for Housing upstairs to take some more pictures. So if you can join upstairs in a minute, and we'll leave you with the following session. Thank you very much for being here.